This pilot takes a full frontal low over a dusty landing field. Today, I'm going to break this video down to teach you about collapse recovery and XC landing approaches. Are you ready? Here we go.
See ya.
I'm paragliding!
See ya.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is Air in the Air. Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. I teach high-level paragliding to create safe, confident, and connected pilots. I've made 200 videos here on YouTube about it, but if you really want these skills locked in, you're gonna wanna come to the Pine Man, my all-inclusive paragliding clinic here in Oregon, late May. Every level pilot is welcome. You'll spend a week totally immersed in paragliding, and you're gonna leave transformed with all kinds of skills. Very limited spots available. The link is in the description. Check it out. Let's get into today's video. Okay, so he's flying an ENC two-liner. Oh, huge collapse. Okay, let's pause it for a second. Before we go back and break it down, here's what I know about this video. Pilot's a couple years into paragliding. This is his first two-liner. He's 30 hours into flying it, and he finds himself on an XC flight that leaves him low over this field. So what we're going to do is two things. We're going to talk about this collapse, particularly what he did well and what could have been improved. And then we're just going to talk about how to find a safe landing on an XC flight if you bomb out midday, which is exactly where he is right now. This is like solar noon. It looks very hot, dry. There's some clouds in the distance. It looks like it could be a full-on situation. So that's how we're going to play this one. So let's go back to the beginning here. I'm going to break it down here. So let's just talk just about the collapse itself, and not why it's happening, where he is, any of that. Just the technicals of the collapse. Play it and collapse. You see that he's kind of pumping. Okay, so we're gonna go back here and we're gonna play this kind of frame by frame. Okay, so what I think at the end of the day here, all's well that ends well. And this reopens and he lands safely here in this field. So that's what you want. So there's lots of ways to skin the cat to get there. The one thing that I see here is his hands are kind of pumpy, which typically tells me that someone is like inexperienced and reluctant to put as much input on the glider as is possible. Now, on the other side of that, we've seen so many videos on this channel of people overhandling their glider, getting into stalled configurations, and cascading. He has no room for that here. So ultimately, I think how he handles it is appropriate for his level, and it works. Okay, so that's really important. You'd rather kind of let the glider do more of the recovery here at this altitude than overhandle it, stall the glider, cascade into the ground. Okay, but what we see here is we're going to key this forward. Okay, he's flying along. Here's slow-mo. Wow, 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 wow. And you see here comes the collapse. His right hand goes down and then comes up immediately. Right? So now his hand just basically went down up. And in some circumstances, that's going to be what you want. But here, I think he could have held this right brake down a bit longer. It is a complete full frontal, you see. Every single cell, except maybe 2 or 3 there on the left, go. That's a total frontal. So his hands are down now for the second time, and they go up again as the glider starts to reinflate. And the timing is actually pretty good on his part. Like, because as the glider starts to reinflate, that's not a bad time to be hands up, the glider's behind you. And then his pumping is in rhythm because as the glider starts to reinflate and surge, he's pumping once again. And now the glider is flying a final pump now to kind of catch the surge and to clear the wingtip. He flies away. So also what you'll notice is the next frame, you see his cell phone flying around here, dangling on a string, and it's actually not ripped off of the Velcro. The Velcro adhesive has actually ripped off the back of the phone. My recommendation is take super glue, put it around the outside of the Velcro, because the adhesive on the Velcro is never as strong as the Velcro itself to a flight deck, especially there's lots of it. So you always have to super glue those things onto the case of your cell phone to keep it from flying off. So all together, I think he does really well in this collapse and handles it really well. and flies away. So I think a bigger risk here than not inputting enough would be overhandling the glider, going into tail slide, and then having some kind of, impact with the ground. And he doesn't do that. So, the thing with pumping is basically that it puts only half of the input on the glider because you're just like doing an input, but you're letting it off, doing an input, letting it off, which only does about half of the drag to the airfoil. And in some cases, that's not nearly enough. And in other cases, it keeps you from overhandling the glider, which I think is what happens in this video. Now, he provides a couple different, he provides a slow motion here, and he also provides a shot with just the glider. So let's go to just the glider here, and I'll kind of walk you through this. So you see right here, we have active braking on the right, a little bit of tail curled, and we have a little bit of active braking on the left. Glider collapses. You see this right brake becomes more where I think both hands needed that same kind of brake input, and honestly for longer, because here the glider is still frontaling, like it's still actively getting bigger and bigger, where especially on this left, the right wing at this point might be a goner, but the left wing isn't. There's center cells open and there's wingtip cells open. So I would want more left brake here as this continues to tuck. At this point, the glider starts opening again. And, this really does go to show, like, this glider in this configuration does pretty well on its own. Obviously, ENC two-liners, not things that you want to just let do the recovery all on its own, but also, a pretty trustworthy steed here. So he basically, the rest of the video, if I just kind of push play and we watch, the rest of the video, now he's just kind of dealing with really sharp air here. Now, like, he's like ballooning up, and like he, takes a small collapse here. He's really having to like work really hard to keep the glider open as he flies on to final. And, here's another collapse. And these are kind of, the main event was the big frontal, and these are kind of little side bouts. And, here just above the ground, he balloons way up, gets a bunch of pitch. There's a glider way specced out above him there, and he ends up landing safe here with lots of headwind. Okay, so noticing that he lands safe here with lots of headwind, and then as he puts his glider down, it's like, flying tail up here. So let's scroll back all the way to the first clip. Okay, so basically here we can see he's actually flying crosswind. He lands right here. This is where he lands, and the wind is coming from down the valley, paralleling this highway here. Okay, so I don't know exactly what his flight track was, like where he came into this field, but knowing what we know, which is that the wind is coming down this way, and that this field is really dry and dusty, and that it's basically solar noon. It's like midday, perfectly midday, and that he's flown a cross-country flight to get here means that this is probably a really bad place to set up an approach. What I'm judging as bad, basically there's a, 200-acre field right here, and he's on the downwind end of it, and that's not where you want to be, right? So if you think about like a big field that's dry and dusty as a thermal collector, the place that I'm going to try to be is like upwind of it if I know that I have to land in that field. And the reason I'm going to do that is being upwind of that means that I can like be in front of the thermals that might be ripping off from the dusty field. And then as I come in, I'll set up upwind and then basically just make one downwind base final to land there in the front of that dusty field. The very back of the field, the wind is taking all of the heat and all of the energy, and wherever it's going to release, whether it releases in the middle of the field or in the front of the field or in the back of the field, it makes the back of the field a place you don't want to be. The only place worse than right over the dust devil is just downwind of the dust devil, right? So if a big thermal rips off in the middle of this field and he's just downwind of it, then he's going to be encountering sink and turbulence. Whereas if he's upwind of that, he's going to experience like lift and wind. Does that make sense? So for me, there's lots of vegetation behind him. I probably would have flown over this. If he was trying to make a low save out of the field, that's one thing. I think that at his level, he's probably a little bit early to be trying to make low saves out of like Dust Devil fields like this. And in the YouTube video that he posted, he talked about the lee of the small hill. I don't think this is a lee side situation from terrain, but there's high possibility this could be a lee side situation from a thermal. We talk about lee side as a mechanical event where the wind blows up one side of a hill and then creates lee side on the other. A thermal does the same exact thing. When a thermal is ripping off from a field really strong, just downwind of it is going to be the lee side. There's going to be, turbulence, and there can be sink, there can be lift, there can be, there's lots of things that can be going on right there. Generally, I'm going to want to fly over vegetation, over soft things, trees are the foam pit of paragliding. So I would probably want to be setting up here over this small hill over here, and then turn downwind base final to land in the field. The downwind part of a big, dry, dusty landing field is going to be the place that you are looking for a climb. And if you're lower than you want to take a climb or a collapse, which he definitely is, then it's not the place you want to set up. It's not the place you want to set up. And so you want to set up upwind of places where you think have a high probability of creating dust devils and thermals for your landing, especially if you're high solar noon like he is here. The other thing I'll say is when I fly out here in the desert, in July, and it's going to be 105 degrees on the ground and the lift is going to 15,000 feet, I'm flying in such a way that I am trying to stay off the ground until sunset because I don't want to land midday. Right? So like on the biggest, hottest XC days, you kind of either want to launch early, land early, or launch when it's going and stay up so that you can find yourself in a place that the landing is known and controlled, and honestly, the conditions have just backed off. Finding yourself over a really dry, dusty field at solar noon on a big XC day is really, really asking for it. And so you want to avoid that. And if you can't avoid it and you're bombing out into a field like this, try to be on the upwind side of it as best you can, because that is going to be the lowest probability of a dust devil kicking off, and also the best position if a big thermal rips off, that you're upwind of it, not downwind of it. Okay. So I hope that's all helpful for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. And like I said, the Pine Man is coming late May here in Oregon. We have an incredibly unique paragliding site where you get to kite up the hill in strong, gusty, switchy, challenging conditions that absolutely change how you handle the glider on the ground and in the air, and how you launch. These are some of the most dangerous parts of paragliding, and this clinic is not only going to give you those, it's going to give you fireside chats. It's going to give you tons of glass off time, soaring. We're going to fly lots of cross country, all your retrieve, all your lodging, all your food, everything is included. Just show up and let me train you paragliding for a week at my home site. It's going to be amazing. Links in the description. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.